What does it feel like to devote yourself to an activity, to a craft, to a form of art? To do it so wholeheartedly, without expecting something back. How does it feel like to be nourished by the act of making? For a long time in my life, I've been driven by results. Even when I quit my job to pursue becoming a professional artist, I think I was equally, if not more, driven by the idea of success rather than the nourishment of the art. I felt like I had something to prove to all the people who looked down on me when I was young, to those who doubt that artists could ever provide a decent living without craft for ourselves and our families. The world that I lived in was filled with hope, miracle, and possibilities, and I saw it as my responsibility to take actions that were in alignment with my values. But when life humbles you, it's the most beautiful thing. And in all my running towards this elusive version of me who is externally successful, I felt more invalidated. No matter how hard I worked to pull my first website together and create art prints, they didn't sell to anyone but one person. He is now my father-in-law who, in his fatherly fashion, kindly wanted to support me. But the more I kept running, thinking in metrics and sales, the more I lost the artist inside. And after some time, I began to wonder if chasing something external was a good way to live my life. If my subscriber count on social media channels, the views on my videos equated to my worth, then I would be handing over my happiness and well-being in the hands of others.
Lost in the cosmos, sending a song.
I didn't realize it then, but I was neglecting the art making that brought me so much joy and a sense of adventure to begin with.
Oh, there is a light passing through. There is a light passing through. Folding a chair, after you go.
So I am just about finishing this painting and I'm going to start the next one. And the whole premise of what I'm doing currently in these weeks is to just, stop overthinking. And when I have a first instinct, to kind of run with it, because I don't know what my central theme of my paintings is. Like, even if they are sort of deep inside me, buried deep inside me, I don't know what is this sort of, single line thread of a story that I want to share. And that's the honest truth. And whenever I have the first instinct, like maybe you felt the same way in your life, like if you've had like an idea to do something, and I feel like sometimes that's like the most innocent kind of experience, when we have these sort of like initial instinct that makes us feel excited about something. I think that is very innocent. But then the mind comes into it and says, no, I can't do that. This isn't going to work. What about this? Oh God, it's just too complicated. And I think that a lot of us, in more times than not, have fallen into this act of, you know, believing this second thought and not going with our first instinct. And in believing the second thought, I feel like what happens is we get into these spirals of overthinking, and the sort of innocent experience and excitement that we had to begin with starts to sort of lose its shape and lose its form. And even with my paintings, I experience it. So I normally have like an initial excitement, initial idea, and I'm finding out slowly that my sort of role in all of this is to really like put that first mark down on the canvas, because even if I have a source image to work with, so this is my source image for this week, even if I have this source image to work with, most times my final painting doesn't look exactly like the source, nor do I want it to. But what ends up happening is when I'm sitting down on my laptop or when I'm trying to like, come up with ideas, I end up overthinking the process. So it's too much thinking and not enough action. And I'm finding out slowly that the little tiny steps, the little tiny actions that I take is actually what leads me to more revelations and more clarity than just sitting down in a static way and trying to think through the full story. And I feel like that's kind of sometimes like the story of my life. Like I try to think all the way from point A to point B, all the way from start to end. But it normally doesn't get me anywhere valuable. And the experience I find is always more enriching when I take that initial step and I run with it and I see where it leads me. So similar to, I think, the story that I told in my last art vlog, like I don't know why I'm drawn to paint this. I have an initial idea. I have this initial emotion of why I am painting this piece. But at the same time, what is this singular thread of theme, singular thread of thought that connects all of these paintings? And, what is that story that connects so that I'm able to explain things in a more succinct way in terms of why I create the way I create, why I think the way I think. I don't know. And this is only my second painting into this whole journey of discovering myself. And sometimes the most frustrating thing is knowing that even if I like this painting, even if I'm excited about doing this one, it's only a small part of the whole story, and I actually don't know what that whole story is. And I have this intuition that I just have to keep painting. I just have to keep following these little nuggets of intuition, little nuggets of excitement, and maybe one day it will make sense. Maybe, I might get to a stage where I have to accept that maybe the whole singular thread of theme, singular thread of story isn't ready to reveal itself to me yet. Maybe I'm not ready for the whole story to be unfolded. So join me on this journey. I really have no idea what it's going to turn out like, but without further ado, let's just get sketching with this piece. And after a while, I got sick of being on this yo-yo ride. I wanted to find a deeper sense of nourishment and a sense of worth and well-being that wasn't dictated by the outside world. I could feel the fire of creativity and passion inside, but it felt like this powerful energy was being given away. I wanted to build an inner strength that allowed me to initiate the spark of my own creativity instead of looking up to anyone else. But this chase towards immediate validation and success is hard to let go. Immediate results seem so attractive. And I think that's why it's hard for us all to find comfort in the grace of time and patience. Especially for our monkey minds, they can lead us down several tracks of fear and negativity. I kept thinking that reaching my version of success would lead me to a place where all of my problems would be solved.
Take the step. You don't have to wait. Lose that breath. You don't gotta change. Stay on the road, won't you? Stay on the road, you're doing fine.
But life continues to humble me to learn the more difficult lesson of building this unshakable faith and trust in myself. The idea for this painting started about a year ago when I began questioning my actions. I wanted to create a painting that symbolized what it would feel like to let go of control and instead wear the blindfold of trust. I really wanted to feel the sense of rootedness that came from a deep faith of taking steady footsteps. I really wanted my actions to be aligned with daily practice and devotion rather than chasing an outcome. I wanted to measure success by how much presence and love I poured into my art, and for my actions to be done for the sake of love. I would say that I'm not there yet in being able to completely let go. The inner critic in me says a steady devotional path doesn't bring a paycheck to pay the bills. But there is still a quiet voice that tells me that what's more important is to build a steady and strong foundation. That it is worth meeting the real kind of success before I even reach the external kind. That real kind of success sounds beautiful to me. The kind of internal success which can't be measured by any numbers or metric. The kind where people's opinions may waver, but I myself know my own worth as priceless. The kind where the act of creating, to bring more beauty into this world with so much presence, fills me with love and awe. I've been having more and more days of feeling this lasting kind of inner strength. So this painting will be kind of like a love letter to the devotional path of nurturing a dream before we see the fruits of our labor, of the invisible faith, of the humbleness of practice, of the unshakable rootedness and the fire we lit within ourselves through the steady steps. Join me in the next art vlog where I will be completing this painting and the story.